Welcome to the next offseason here in my Oklahoma Sooners Death Penalty Dynasty, and from here on out I'm actually going to drop the death penalty part of that intro, just because I feel like it's no longer a death penalty dynasty. It hasn't been for a few seasons. We have no restrictions. We've won the last 4 national championships, I believe the last 5 Heisman trophies, so it has been a little bit ridiculous. But either way, we're going to go ahead and drop the death penalty part of that. So from now on, it's just my Oklahoma Sooners dynasty, but now we can jump into the full off season. If you missed any of the playoffs, none of the games were particularly close. We beat Oregon 49-31, Alabama 49-20, and then we beat Virginia Tech 42-19. But here in this offseason, I think this team is going to change a lot. We're losing our starting quarterback, one of our starting running backs, and I think at least one of our receivers, but we'll obviously get into all of that once we get into the players leaving stage. For now, I'm going to go ahead and jump to the end of the bowl season. It should update all the record books, and we can see all of the new records that our team set this year. Starting with defensive end Dwight Rollins. He absolutely has shattered the records for sacks in a single career. He got 85 in his career here at Oklahoma, and I honestly don't control any of the defensive line, and I've changed slider sets while he was at OU, and it never really stopped him, so for whatever reason, he was just a monster for us. Chris McKinney sets the record for rushing touchdowns in a single career with 113, obviously making him the only player ever to run for 100 touchdowns in a single college career. And then obviously we extend our winning streak from 48 to 64. At this point, we are demolishing the old Sooners record, but we're going to look to try to keep that going as long as possible. Chris McKinney also broke the record by about 2,000 yards for rushing yards in a single career. Now we're getting into school records, and it's going to repeat some of these, like how Chris McKinney also broke the school career rushing record by beating his own record from last season. Once again, one of his own records was beat just because he came back for this year. I really didn't expect him to come back for this year. I thought he'd be a high first-round pick anyway. But coming back and doing it all again, he may be the #1 overall pick at a running back. That is very, very impressive. Once again, another repeating record here with Dwight Rollins breaking the record for most sacks in a single career at Oklahoma. That was all of the records it wanted to show, so now we can go look at the yearly awards here. And it looks like Anthony Nolan, the quarterback for Alabama, won the Maxwell Award above Chris McKinney, who finished 3rd. The Walter Camp Award goes to Gerald Smith, the running back that Chris McKinney barely beat out for the Heisman Trophy. The Bednarik Award, we apparently have the top 4 candidates here, but it goes to Dwight Rollins. The Nagurski Award also goes to Rollins. The O'Brien Award goes to Anthony Nolan. Sean Griffin finished 7th here. The Walker Award goes to Chris McKinney. The Bolitnikoff Award, we had no one even on this list. That goes to Demetrius Swain at TCU. The Mackey Award goes to the tight end at Ohio. The Outland Award goes to the guard at California. The Remington goes to Josh McDougal, our starting center. I like to see that. The Lombardi Award goes to Dwight Rollins, so he cleaned up this year. The Butkus Award goes to Dwight Rollins. The Thorpe Award goes to Dwayne Jones. I'm honestly surprised to see him here. He finished with 95 tackles, a forced fumble, and 2 interceptions. The Groza Award goes to the kicker from, I believe, oh, okay, it shows it on the screen. That's Arkansas State. And then the Guy Award goes to the punter from Notre Dame. I almost forgot this award, the Jet Award. I think we've won this the last 6 seasons or so, but it goes to Victor Alexander, our backup running back who returned a few kickoffs for touchdowns this year. He ended up with 3 kickoff return touchdowns apparently and 4 punt return touchdowns. Clearly the best one in the nation. As I stated earlier, we won the Heisman yet again. Chris McKinney wins his 4th one in a row. Obviously one of the most dominating players in college football history. Let's go ahead and take a look at all of the bowl games for this season. I will just scroll through and kind of talk about any that really surprised me. If there's any results you want to see, go ahead and pause the video. Was that Ohio State going 8-5? It sure was. A very down year for the Buckeyes here. They were in a shootout here in the Holiday Bowl between Miami and Oregon State. Scrolling down a little bit more, looks like Tulane lost to Illinois. USC defeated Utah. Obviously, I moved USC over to the Big Ten, so that is a Big Ten Pac-12 matchup now. BYU Stanford, Kansas State over Minnesota, Arizona State defeats Clemson, Michigan State throttles Missouri 59-14. Not great for our SEC brothers. Friends, they're not really brothers or friends. We kind of hate Missouri, but it's whatever. Obviously, we defeated Alabama. Scrolling a little farther down, Southern Miss goes 12-1 and defeats Michigan 52-42. That's a low-scoring Citrus Bowl here between Kentucky and Rutgers, 7-14. Obviously, we defeated Oregon in the first round, 49-20. Texas A&M wins 19-13 over Boston College. How was that a bowl matchup? Texas A&M was 10-2, it looks like. Boston College was 6-6, and that was a close game. Virginia Tech beats Florida 34-24. That was in the playoffs. Virginia Tech also beats California. That was also in the playoffs. And scrolling farther down, we get to see the national championship, which we won pretty easily, 49-20. And I say pretty easily, none of the games this season were a massive challenge for us. We'll go over our schedule here in just a second, but next season I will be changing the sliders a little bit to try to make it a little bit more of a challenge. We started the season off beating Auburn, Mississippi, and then Arkansas ended up finishing number 11, and we defeated all of them pretty easily. Tennessee was our first close game and ended up being an 8-point victory. Then we blew out Texas. We had a very close game at Ohio State, and then just a bunch of dominating victories until we got to the SEC Championship, where we won 28-19 against Alabama, and then we got into the playoffs. Now we finally get to jump over into stats, and Sean Griffin in his final season at Oklahoma. We really didn't have to throw the ball a whole lot this season, or at least not as much as we did last year, because we had two very dynamic running backs in McKinney and John Jordan. So we didn't have to throw the ball near as much as he did his junior year, where he threw 334 times. This year only 272. He finishes with 3,700 yards this year, 40 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. His completion percentage went up a little bit, obviously more interceptions. I think I was throwing the ball a lot more risky this season. Even while splitting carries this season, Chris McKinney crosses 2,000 yards, and I think honestly had the best year of his career as a senior. I think he should have gone to the pros after his junior year, but he came back to average 9.1 yards a carry, which is absolutely insane. 29 rushing touchdowns. He just had a ridiculous season. But John Jordan did not have a bad year either. He finishes averaging 8.6 yards a carry, 1,400 yards rushing, and 12 touchdowns. He will most likely be our main back next season. I will see if I want to split carries between anybody, but as of right now, John Jordan is the lead back. And then if you were curious about Sean Griffin's rushing stats for this season, he ran for 225 yards and 6 touchdowns. And then our fullback Sean Howard got 7 carries for a total of 1 yard, but found the end zone 3 times. John Mangum here in his second year never crossed 1,000 yards, but like I said earlier, I didn't throw the ball near as much. He still finished with 981 yards and 12 touchdowns. This was really the first season where William Brown got any sort of real playing time. He finishes with 40 catches for 799 yards and 8 touchdowns. Kind of the same story for Robert Weber. He didn't get a whole lot of playing time in his freshman year, but as a sophomore, he gets 22 catches for 440 yards and 6 touchdowns. John Carrington has gotten a little bit of playing time in both seasons. This year he finishes with 21 catches as opposed to 34 last season, 625 yards, but got the same amount of touchdowns with 6. Thomas Patterson, I really wish I used my tight ends a lot more. I think this guy could be an absolute monster once he gets to the pros and maybe gets to an NFL roster that uses the tight end a lot more. 18 catches, 274 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I just don't throw to my tight end a whole lot, but he is 6'8", 260, very athletic. I think it's one of those guys, he's not going to put up a lot of production in college just because of the offense he's in, but once he goes to the pros, could be an absolute beast. Senior wide receiver Grant McConnell, this is his only season at Oklahoma. I believe he might have been a JUCO transfer from last year. He catches 12 passes for 157 yards and 1 touchdown. Then if you wanted to see the running back receiving stats, McKinney caught 24 passes for 326 yards and 2 touchdowns, and John Jordan caught 9 passes for 184 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jumping over to defense, we get to see David Jordan, who led the team with 118 tackles. I think all 4 years of his career, he ended up leading the team in tackles here. Tackles for loss goes to Dwight Rollins. Sacks also goes to Dwight Rollins with 23 of them. And then what about interceptions? That goes to Adam Jackson, our number 1 corner, who got 5. I apparently only ended up kicking 5 field goals this season and only made 3 of them. So Brian Witt did not have a terrific freshman year, but that is not a realistic amount of kicks. Hopefully with the slider change coming up, I can get forced into a few more field goal tries, because we ended up kicking 101 extra points. He made all of them. But yeah, we've definitely got to up the difficulty a little bit and try to get our kicker on the field a little bit more just for realism. This number also I think needs to go up a little bit just for realism. Jim Kelly only punted the ball 12 times this year. In quarterback rating, Sean Griffin ended up leading the country with 223. Chad Williams at TCU also appeared to be pretty good. Yards goes to Marcus Scott, the Virginia Tech quarterback, and then touchdowns goes to Sean Griffin with 40. Interceptions, that is going to fall to Garth Gonzalez at Florida, who threw 21 of them. And then what about completion percentage? That also goes to Chad Williams, who completed 75% of his passes. Leading the country in rushing attempts is Army running back Robert Mitchell. In yards, that is going to go to Fred Garner, the running back at Illinois. Chris McKinney ended up second. Per carry, though, that's going to go to McKinney and John Jordan, who got 9.1 and 8.6. Touchdowns obviously going to go to Chris McKinney with his 29. And now what about fumbles? Who led the country in fumbles? It is going to be a true freshman running back from Hawaii named Carl Anderson. I don't know if it's because I throw the ball downfield a lot more than these teams or what, but we have never even come close to leading the nation in receptions. But this season it's going to go to Adam Wood at Virginia Tech. Yards is also going to go to Wood. And then touchdowns is going to go to Demetrius Swain, the wide receiver at TCU. David Jordan ends up second in the nation in tackles because number 1 is an outside linebacker at Minnesota by the name of Larry Jennings, who got 125. Now I will say the solo tackles for simulation is a bit broken because once I sort this, yeah, it's just a bunch of our guys up here at the top, but assisted tackles, none of our guys are nowhere near the top. So I always should try to sort by tackles to show you guys where that fell, but David Jordan with 118. Tackles for loss goes to Marquise Anderson at the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. Apparently he got 35. That's a pretty solid year. Dwight Rollins got 34, and sacks obviously going to go to Dwight Rollins with his 23, and interceptions is a 4-way tie between David Horn, Pete White, Jason Griffin, and Antonio Davis, who all got 6. It looks like Adam Jackson is tied for second with his 5. It is finally time to jump to the end of this season, and we can officially kick off the off-season part of this video. And not much of a shock here, but we've been offered a 6-year contract extension. That's what happens when you win, 4 straight national championships and haven't lost a game in 4 seasons. So we're going to go ahead and take this. Before we get to jump into players leaving though, we do have some coaching changes here. We have 27 offensive coordinator points to use, which means our offensive coordinator probably left for a new job. We show up on this list because we got an extension, but we actually lost both our offensive and defensive coordinator. Since we have no defensive coordinator points available, Chris Wilson must be completely and totally new to this job, so that's going to be interesting for our defense next season. But our new offensive coordinator is Will Healy. Let's go find out where Heldon and Hall both ended up going. Our former defensive coordinator Brandon Hall takes the job at LSU. He takes over a 1-11 team from last season. Obviously will now be one of our SEC opponents. And offensive coordinator Tyson Heldon has taken the job at Oklahoma State, so he will also be playing us this season. I will admit I was completely wrong here. Chris Wilson is not completely new to this job. He was apparently just already a defensive coordinator, so all of his points just carried over. He comes in as a level 25 defensive coordinator. But our offensive coordinator, Will Healy, was most likely fired as a head coach, so you get to reuse all of his points, and I'm just going to do that real quick, and then we'll go see exactly where they came from. Well, Chris Wilson was actually the defensive coordinator at Oregon, and his contract expired. They decided to move on and hire Jeff Collins to be their new defensive coordinator. And it looks like Healy was the head coach at New Mexico. They just let his contract expire and decided to hire Matt Campbell instead, and Healy last season went 5-7. But we can now jump into the players leaving stage and see how many new players will be in the starting lineup. We will start with these seniors that we will be losing, starting with quarterback Sean Griffin. He's projected to go in the first round. Defensive tackle Ryan Covington, running back Chris McKinney. It says he's projected to go in round 6. I won't be doing that. When I put them in Madden, he will be a expected top 5 pick, I promise. Center Josh McDougal, defensive end Dwight Rollins, and middle linebacker David Jordan. These guys will also be in the first round as well. I'm not going to put them in the 7th round. This dude broke the record for most sacks in a single career in college and was just an all-around monster. David Jordan was also really solid for us his entire career, so most of these guys will probably go pretty early in the draft. But losing Jordan, Rollins, and Covington this offseason, I think our defense might take a bit of a hit. And now just some guys that are graduating, a left tackle in Brad Cohen that probably never played, wide receiver Anthony Hollis, wide receiver Grant McConnell, right guard Jacob Thomas. These guys I won't be putting into the draft here. They're probably not going to have much of an NFL career, so I don't think it matters. Now from here, I will scroll up to show you guys everyone that had the chance of going to the draft and decided to go to the draft or stay here. The first one is running back John Jordan. He has decided to stay for this season. I think he wants to show exactly what he can do as the number 1 back in this offense. McKinney put up 2,000 yards the last few seasons. I think John Jordan wants to show he can do the same thing. And then we are losing right outside linebacker Darrell Williams to a transfer to Memphis. We're also losing left guard Reggie Wallace to a transfer to Nevada. I tried to bring them back, told them they were playing a lot of games. They didn't really care. Now moving on, wide receiver William Brown has decided to declare for the draft after really just playing 1 season. He's projected in round 5. I feel like that might be solid if they think he has some potential there. I'm not going to try to bring him back. I don't think that's super realistic. And then defensive back Adam Jackson has decided to leave, a 91 overall, projected in the first round. I don't blame him at all for leaving. Jackson didn't put up a lot of flashy numbers here with the Sooners, but he finishes with 130 tackles and 12 career interceptions with 3 defensive touchdowns. Like I said, it kind of surprises me that Brown is leaving after one season, but I think he may honestly have the ability to go to the NFL right now and maybe be like a slot receiver. So we'll see exactly where he ends up in the draft, but I really was expecting him to come back. I'm not going to go over his numbers too much because you already saw him, but Sean Griffin only got a couple seasons of playing time. He was a backup to Ty Downing his first couple seasons, came in and played a little bit, but he did lead us to back-to-back national championships and never lost a game as a starter. Ryan Covington never really had quite the season he had a couple years ago where he ended up with 10 sacks. This is honestly one of his least productive years, but he finishes his career as a Sooner with 26 total sacks. Running back Chris McKinney is most likely going to go down as the greatest college football player of all time in this universe. 8,600 career rushing yards, 113 touchdowns, was just an absolute monster. Won the Walter Camp and the Maxwell Award in 2021, but the big stat here is the 2020 Heisman, 2019 Heisman, 2022 Heisman, and 2021 Heisman. He won the Heisman Trophy all 4 years as a starter, which I don't think obviously is ever going to happen in real life, but this is a video game and this is just absurd stats. Not really much to say on Josh McDougal. He was our starting center and he was pretty good, but now he's gone. Now, Dwight Rollins might be my favorite player I've ever had on defense in this series. Obviously, he ended up with the Nagurski Award all 4 years of his career and the Bednarik Award in 2 years of his career. He had 17 sacks as a freshman, 29 sacks the next year, 16 the next, and 23 the next, finishing with a career total of 85 sacks, completely shattering the record. And David Jordan won the Butkus Award 3 out of the 4 years he was the starter, also won the Bednarik Award once. He ends up with a total of 10 career sacks, 417 tackles, 11 pass deflections, 1 defensive touchdown, and 4 career interceptions. He was a pretty solid middle linebacker, obviously. Wide receiver Anthony Hollis never really got a lot of playing time here. He ended up with 8 career touchdowns, hasn't caught one since 2020, which was a couple seasons ago in this. But the main reason I didn't use him is because of that 85 speed. He wasn't exactly a speedy receiver, which is what I really like to use in my offense. At the next stage, we have the NFL draft results. Don't take this too much into account for where I'm going to put these players, because Adam Jackson goes in the first round, that's fine. Sean Griffin in the second, I can maybe see that. He had some concerns, he threw a lot of interceptions. Ryan Covington in the third, I kind of like that. Dwight Rollins 100% will be a first round pick. William Brown in the 5th or 6th round, I'm cool with that. McKinney will 100% be a top 10 pick. McDougal in the 7th round, that's whatever. And David Jordan will probably go 1st, 2nd, maybe 3rd round, but he was still really good for us the entire time. Now let's see if we have anyone in the transfer request. I highly doubt there's going to be anyone here. I don't think we've gotten it in the last couple seasons. And yeah, no one's going to be here. Before I show you guys who I am going for here in the offseason for recruiting, the class that we have so far is going to be the #1 athlete in Josh Pearson. I think he might be the #1 player in the country. I will double check that though. Defensive end Luke Todd, who is a 4-star. Guard Joel Campbell, who is a JUCO, but a 3-star, already an 80 overall. Derek Suggs, a 3-star guard, who is a 78. Tackle Brian Moore, who is a 71. Running back Kevin Ziegler, who is only a 3-star, but he has 95 speed. That's the reason I brought him in. Defensive tackle Kevin Dickens was a 78. I only recruited this man based on his name. Wide receiver Adam West out of Pasco, Washington. Maybe going to be nicknamed Batman. We'll see where that goes. He comes in with 96 speed, 62 catching. Can't really catch, but he's fast, so he may be a decent kick returner for us. Outside linebacker Ian Wilson, who was the #1 outside linebacker in the class, followed by outside linebacker Steve Butler, who is the #2 outside linebacker in the class. Then we got strong safety Jason Mitchell, who is the #1 strong safety. Then we got Jermaine Irvin, the #6 wide receiver. Safety Russ Anthony, who is a 79 overall. Middle linebacker Tommy Hollis, the #3 middle linebacker in the country. Free safety David Weaver. Center Travis Clark. Athlete Brian Curry. Running back Lance Ramsauer. Fullback James Harrell, athlete Adam Campbell, and tackle Greg Jefferson. The only 2 players I am going for in the offseason are defensive end Lee Sowell out of San Antonio, Texas. He comes in as an 81 overall, 87 tackle, 81 hit power, 88 finesse move, 76 block shedding. We're going to try to get him. Right now, Florida is the lead, and then the #1 quarterback in the country is Doug Brooks, 6 foot, 187. Not a huge dude, 76 speed, but 95 throw power, which is already higher than I believe anyone on the team. So I will advance to signing day and see if we land either one of those players. Brooks may be our starting quarterback. I know Sam Townsend has spent a couple seasons on the roster as a backup, but Brooks with that 95 throw power is really hard to pass up. I think he could be a lot of fun. And we end up getting Sal, Brooks, and apparently one of the defensive backs that I wasn't even really going for this offseason, and Chris Summers. So I think we got a really good recruiting class. let's go see where we rank. For I believe the second season in a row, we finished as the #1 recruiting class. Most of the season, we were actually behind Notre Dame. They stayed at 1 a lot this year, but I think getting the 5-star defensive end and then the #1 quarterback right there at the end really kind of boosted us up. And I apologize, now that I see Josh Pearson again, I completely forgot to see where he ranked in the recruiting class, but he was at least the #1 athlete, I think the #1 player overall in the country, but I'm not going to guarantee that right now. Obviously, I can't check it. Looking at Josh Pearson, he has 81 speed, he has 83 play rec, he can't really catch. He has 90 throw power though, so he could very well be a quarterback as well. I don't really think he can cover anybody. That 81 speed really concerns me. So for right now, we're going to move Josh Pearson over to quarterback. And I think we now have a ton of quarterbacks on this roster. We do. Right now, we have 5 going into the season, and we'll have to figure out exactly who is going to be the starter here. But let's go back to the other athletes and try to place them. Adam Campbell comes in with 92 speed, 77 route running. He can't cover at all, 72 catching. He can't really throw. He can run the ball. He's got 86 carrying, 80 elusiveness, 85 ball carrier vision, 86 stiff arm. We're going to take Adam Campbell and make him a wide receiver. He is a JUCO transfer. Maybe he'll be the next Uline Washington. We brought in Washington as a JUCO transfer, was one of the best receivers we had, so we're going to move him over to receiver as well. And now we just need to find a home for Brian Curry. He seems to be kind of a weird one here. He's got 91 speed, 72 hit power, 72 tackle, but that 63 play rec really concerns me. Can he carry the ball? Not really. A 64 carrying, 67 ball carrier vision. He's got good elusiveness and a decent stiff arm. I really don't know where to put this guy right now. Let's take a look at the top positions he can play here. Running back is a pretty crowded room with John Jordan, Corey Mays, Lance Ramsauer, Victor Alexander, so I don't really think I want to put him there. At wide receiver, we don't have anyone that's like an elite level talent, but we do have a lot of people here, and I don't want anyone to get buried too far down on the depth chart. So now let's go take a look at strong safety, where we have a total of 4 people right now. They're all pretty solid ratings, so we're not going to go there. And free safety, we have Dwayne Jones and David Weaver. Below them, though, is a 45 overall in Lorenzo Smith. So I think we found Curry's home. We're going to go ahead and move him over to free safety here. He will be a 73 overall. And now let me see if there's anyone else I want to move around positions. The only 2 players I moved over are right tackle Andrew Harrell over to left tackle and right tackle Tommy Roberts over to left tackle, just so Moore isn't the only one here and we don't get any walk-ons at left tackle. I have forgotten to do that literally the first 9 seasons of this series. Now for my favorite part of the offseason, we get to look at training results. Let's see how much better or worse everyone got. Starting with quarterback Sam Townsend, he gets +4 to his overall here. He will be competing for the starting job. So will quarterback Ken Wheatley, who goes up to an 83. Christian Carter probably not going to be competing too much. He lost an overall point down to a 70 overall. Townsend is a 92 speed quarterback. He could be a ton of fun to use if I run the option at all. Let's see what their throw power is though. As an 82, a 94, and now an 84. He actually lost 2 throw power, and Townsend gets a lot more accurate, up to a 93, and Ken Wheatley's up to an 84. So obviously Townsend right now I would say is the favorite to be the starting quarterback, but I'm not going to discount the #1 quarterback we just got in Doug Brooks. At running back, John Jordan goes up to a 94 overall, Corey Mays gets +5, Victor Alexander gets +2, and Ron Miller gets +5. He's kind of a slower back though, don't know how much I'm going to use him. Everyone got a little bit faster except for Miller. What about acceleration? That only goes to John Jordan. What about break tackle? 87, 87, he gets +9 to that to go to 77. Trucking, 80, 91, elusiveness stays at a 99, ball carrier vision goes up. This doesn't really matter because I control them. Spin move, juke move up to a 94, carrying up to a 79. Wow, this guy, Victor Alexander, cannot carry the ball. He did not fumble a lot this year. I don't think he fumbled at all. But 59 carrying is incredibly low. Up to 83 catching. So as of right now, like I said earlier, John Jordan 100% is the main running back currently, but we may have to use running back Corey Mays a little bit this season. This was one position group I was really excited to see who got better, because John Carrington gets +4 to go to an 85 overall, John Mangum gets +3 to go to an 84 overall, Fitz +2 to speed, now 95 speed, 91 speed for Carrington. Awareness, he goes +11 there. What about route running, stuff like that? Elusiveness +10, ball carrier vision, once again, doesn't really matter. Carrying up to a 99, 89, catching 81, 82. All right, so we're seeing some good numbers here. He gets +7 to spectacular catching. John Carrington may be ready for a breakout season here. Route running up to a 91. Yeah, I would definitely say he is up to a breakout season potential. John Carrington could be a lot of fun this season. Tight end Thomas Patterson goes up to an 86 overall, and Whitaker goes up to an 84 overall. So that is how our tight ends are developing right now. We're going to run through the O-line just real quick. Andrew Harrell's now an 87 overall. Roberts goes up to a 76. At left guard, we have an 89 overall in CJ Clark. Center is a 79 overall in Darius Johnson. Right guard is an 83, and right tackle is an 85 overall. It'll be good to see who steps up on the defensive line here while losing Dwight Rollins and Ryan Covington. At defensive end, Hunter Cade and Paul Manning both got better. Manning's now an 84 overall. I wanted to use him a little bit more last season, but really never found the field. I think I actually ended up redshirting him because he never played. I don't remember redshirting him, but if they don't play, does it automatically redshirt them? I could have redshirted him, but I don't remember. That's just a weird thing on my end. Okay. Defensive end, Lee Ross up to an 82 overall. Looking at it right now, it's probably going to be Cade and Manning as the starting defensive ends. At defensive tackle, Jermaine Rice gets +7. J.R. Pearson plays the entire season, doesn't improve at all, stays as an 80 overall. That really sucks. He was a lot of fun to use last season. What did he end up getting? He ended up with a total of 5 quarterback sacks last season. I thought he played pretty well for a true freshman. We either have no left outside linebackers currently on the roster, or once again, I forgot to move people over to that side because I keep forgetting to do that. I managed to do it with the offensive line this season though, so baby steps, but I'm moving forward. At middle linebacker, this will be a position battle because we're replacing David Jordan. We have Adam Mason, David Lane, and Steve Baker, who got up to an 80, 79, and a 75 overall. And then at right outside linebacker, Brian Bass, 84 overall. Nate Thompson goes up to an 83. Adrian McCullum goes up to an 83. And Corey Robinson loses 5 overall points. That is not good. You are kind of at risk to get cut after that. Corner will be interesting this season with no Adam Jackson. Right now, the best corner on the roster is Jeff Cox at an 89 overall. Ben Rivers is an 85. Elton Butler is an 84. Trey Boland's an 82. Shane Jackson, who is coming off a true freshman year where he did not play, goes up to an 81 overall. And Luke Washington gets +4, but is currently a 65, so I don't know if you're going to make the team right now. At free safety, Dwayne Jones gets +6. Okay, so one of our best players gets the highest boost. He goes up to a 95 overall, gets +3 to awareness. Where did you get a big boost here? +4 to catching, +5 to jumping, and +4 to tackling, 2 to hit power, 5 to block shedding, 4 to pursuit, 8 to play rec, 8 to man coverage, 2 to zone coverage, 8 to press. Yeah, he was one of our best players last season, and it looks like he's going to continue being one of our best players. Walter Siegel loses 2 overall points after what I thought was a pretty good season for him, but now Kyle Olsen could potentially take his job. Siegel is obviously a slower safety at 76 overall, but his other ratings kind of made up for it for a while, but losing 7 awareness here, not going to help him. Olsen has a legit shot to take his job here. Can we see what his other ratings are? He lost 2 to catching, which isn't great. What about play rec and stuff like that? Pursuit, he lost 1. Play rec, he lost 3. Man coverage, he lost 5. Okay, so Olsen has just really gone downhill. I would say right now, he's not going to be the starter. If I had to pick one right now, it's Kyle Olsen, but we'll see where those rookie, or they're not rookie, if those freshman safety line up to them at all. At kicker, Brian Wood got a little better, +3 to his overall, and at punter, Jim Kelly going into his final season got +4 to his overall. On this screen, you can see the top-rated players on the team. Dwayne Jones is a 95 overall, John Jordan 92, Sam Townsend a 91, and then our punter is also a 91. Now, there will still be a quarterback battle. I've said this now multiple times. I want to make sure that everyone understands that just because he's a 91 does not mean he will be the starting quarterback. And the main reason is throw power. He only has an 82 throw power compared to Ken Wheatley, who has a 94, and Doug Brooks, who's going to have a 95 throw power. So yes, this guy is fast. He can move the ball downfield with his legs, but I really like to throw the ball deep, as you guys have seen. And if he can't do that, he can't be the starting quarterback. This is the part of the offseason that I absolutely hate, though. We need to cut players now. Let's see how many players we have to get off this team. We need to cut a total of 10 players to get down to 70. Well, the first call is pretty easy. We're going to go down here to Lorenzo Smith and kick him off the team. The next player that's getting kicked off is left guard Eric Griffith. He's only a 67 overall. He's a redshirt sophomore. I don't think he's going to see the field that much, and we obviously need to make some more roster space. This guy did get a bit better for us, but we're going to go ahead and release running back Ron Miller as well. That really low speed just makes him stand out from the rest of the pack here, and he's probably never going to get any real playing time on this team. As much as I hate to get rid of a redshirt freshman quarterback, Christian Carter losing an overall point, dropping down to 70, He's obviously nowhere near these other quarterbacks right now. We just brought in 2 more true freshmen. I think it's a good possibility he would be gone, so we're going to go ahead and cut Christian Carter. We are also going to be cutting defensive back Luke Washington, only a 65 overall, 91 speed, 63 awareness, but I don't really think he's ever going to stand out from the rest of these guys, and I don't really see much playing time in his future. He has 65 man coverage. That's really just not going to work, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of him. Another player that's going to leave the team is middle linebacker Steve Baker. It showed he got a little bit better during training results, but bringing in Tommy Hollis, and then we have Adam Manson as well, and David Lane. This guy's a redshirt senior. He's never going to see the field, so he is also going to be cut. I really do hate cutting young players, but with these 3 guys that we just brought in Irvin, Campbell, and Adam West here, Andy Robinson's probably not going to see the field at all in the next few seasons, so we're just going to go ahead and get rid of him now. Another young player that I'm going to have to cut here is outside linebacker Corey Robinson, a 71 overall, clearly nowhere near the rest of these guys at all. Steve Butler is pretty well primed to take over the starting outside linebacker job when it becomes available, because right now it's probably going to be Bass or Nate Thompson, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of Corey Robinson. The next player on the chopping block is left guard Bobby Jackson. Yes, I only have 2 other left guards on the roster, but I do have 3 right guards, so if someone needs to bounce over and play left guard, they can. But Jackson is the lowest rated guy that is not a freshman besides 1 other player, and that's the next player I'm cutting, but Bobby Jackson is getting off the team now. And the lowest rated player on the team is fullback Alex Grisby. I believe he was a walk-on a few years ago. We brought in Harrell and we have Sean Howard, so this guy is not going to make the team, and we are officially down to 70 players. Now we're officially in the preseason before season 10, and obviously I will still be doing a team preview video where I go over the custom schedules and the depth chart, who I'm redshirting, and we check out to see where everyone got drafted over in Madden. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will talk to you next time.